Welcome back to LarryB YouTube channel. In today's class, we are going to learn how to make this beautiful detachable cape blouse with puff sleeve. Okay, I'm going to take you through how to cut and sew this, including the sleeves. And as you can see, the sleeve is not gathered with elastic, so I'm going to teach you the method you can use to have your puff sleeve without having to gather with elastic. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. This is a detachable cape with puff sleeve. I'm using this fabric. It's a Mikado fabric. You can decide to line this or not. It's up to you and what you want to achieve. So I'm also going to be using this trimming for the front part. It's also optional. You can leave it as it is. So for this, to make this easy, I am working with this basic bodice that I have. It's a half scale bodice. So this is the front and this is the back. Okay, you can see the zipper allowance on the back. This is the zipper allowance there. So this is what we have. So like I said, it's small. It's like a small like a cape top. So it's not going to be getting to my full length. So what I'm going to do is to decide the length that I want for it. So for the front, from my armhole line, see the armhole here, I'm going to go down by around 2 to 3 inches. That's the length that I want for the front. So let me do 2.5. So from here I'm coming down by 2.5, and then I'm going to go ahead and connect. So this is the length for the front. This is where the front is going to stop. So remember that we normally sew the front and back together by this side. So that automatically means that for the side of the back too, it has to be exactly the same measurement used for the front, which is also 2.5. But if you wish for your back to be a bit longer, then you can do that at the center here to create like an illusion that the back is longer. So for the back, for the center back, you can maintain the 2.5 inches too, but if you want it to be a bit longer, you can increase the length for the back. You can add extra 1 inch to it and then make it 3.5, so you can see that it is a bit longer than what you have in front. And then I'm going to connect these two together just like this. You don't have to do this. You can maintain the same 2.5 inches all around. So here I'm going to extend this into my zipper allowance, and then I'll go ahead and cut this out. So I'm going to grab my scissors now, and then I'll cut this out. So this is the back and this is the front. So the sleeve is a puff sleeve like I mentioned, but I'm not going to be gathering it with elastic. So I'm going to be using half circle flare method to cut my sleeve. You can use your full circle method, but I just prefer to work with the half circle flare method. Okay, so I will take this now and cut it on my fabric, and then you add necessary allowances. For the front, this part has to be cut on fold. Okay, then you add your seam allowance on the shoulder. I'm not adding to the armhole. I already have seam allowance on the side. Okay, so you can use, it's not supposed to be so fitted like that. The bust I'm working with is 40, so you can see I have 10 inches here. Then for my seam allowance, I'm using 1 inch for my seam allowance, but I added 1/4 inch for ease. So adding 1/4 inch means that I have already added 1 inch to the whole measurement. Remember, we are folding into 4, and quarter times 4 will give you a full 1 inch. So if you want to add extra 2 inches as ease, then you're going to be adding 1/2 inch for your ease allowance. I hope that is clear. So you can see I have 1.25 here for my seam allowance, 1 inch for seam allowance, 1/2 inch for ease. The same thing applies to the back. You can see the actual bust is 10 inches, and then I added 1.25 inch for my seam allowance. You can see it here. Okay, so this is my seam allowance right here. So I'll go ahead and cut this now on my fabric. So like I said, for the sleeve we are not going to be using elastic. So what we are doing is to gather it with an actual basic sleeve like this. So the sleeve is not so long, so you can see I have 10 inches here, although I want it to get to the elbow, which is around 12 inches, but it's like a puff sleeve, so I don't want the one under to be so long, so I have just 10 inches here. So for the length of the flare, because it's going to be puff, so you are not going to cut 10 inches, you are going to add extra allowance for to give you room to puff. So you can see I'm going to add about maybe 15 inches to it, about 5 to 7 inches, so I can cut out 15 or 17 inches. It's up to you and how puffy you want it to be. So you can see that I have added enough extra to what I have here. And then for the radius of your sleeve, you're going to measure your armhole area. So this armhole area I have around 11 inches, so if you multiply that by 2, you will have 22. Okay, you have 22 inches, but we are going to be gathering a little bit here, so we are not going to be working with the actual 22 inches. So you can even add extra and make this 30 inches. So if you make this 30 inches, what you need to do now is to just go ahead now and then divide the 30 inches by, you divide your 30 inches by 3.142. So to cut this, you can either use your full circle flare or half circle flare. I'm using the half circle flare here. Okay, if you want it really full, you can do full circle flare, but I'm using half circle. So the 30 that I'm working with, I'll divide this by 3.142, is a constant, and that is going to give me 9.5. you can see. So that 9.5, I just need to add it to my actual sleeve. If you are using a full circle, instead of dividing by 3.14, you divide by 6.28. Both of them are constant. There is a tutorial on how you can get to this measurement already on the channel. So if you want to know, let me know, and I'm going to teach you. I'm going to drop the link down below. But for this, we are using half circle flare, so the radius we are working with is actually 22. Because I want to gather a little bit, I made this 30, and that 30 I divided this by 3.142. so that is what I'm going to use to cut my flare. So to cut your flare, you are going to bring your fabric and then fold your flare in form of a half circle. So how do you fold that? You fold into 2 by your measurements. So like I was saying, you need to add your radius. Okay, remember the radius is 9.5. Then you add it to whatever length you want to work with. So you are going to measure that on your fabric. So I'm just going to work with 26 inches for haul. So here, from here, I'm going to measure 26 inches like this. And once you measure the 26 inches, you can see you measure your 26 inches, then you put it on fold by 2. So you fold 26 inches into 2. This is 1, this is 2. Both of them are 26 inches long. If I add extra, okay. So once you fold into 2, remember this is a half circle flare. The next folding you are going to be doing is in form of a triangle, just like this. If you are going to be doing a full circle, you know that you fold into 4, but this is a half circle. So after folding into 2, the next fold is going to be in form of a triangle like this. So once you fold it like this in form of a triangle, the next thing is to go ahead and take your measurement. So to take my measurement, remember everything is 26 inches, so I'm going to take that out first so that we'll have something smaller to work with. So here I have 26 inches. You can see I have 26 inches exactly. So I'm going to mark the 26 inches all around, and then I'm going to cut it out. So I have marked my 26 inches. I'll take my scissors and then I'll go ahead and cut that out. This is a Mikado fabric, so it's a bit thick. Okay, so I've taken that out. So after taking the 26 inches out, the next measurement you're going to take out is that of your radius. Remember our radius is 9.5. So from the upper part here, you're going to mark the 9.5. Okay, so I'm going to come here now and mark 9.5 inches all around. That's our actual armhole plus excess that we want to gather. Okay, so I'm connecting that, so you can even check what you have. So here I have 8 inches. So I remember that this is into 4, so that's 32 inches altogether, and what I need is actually 22. So I have all of this together. If you think this is too much, you can reduce it and maybe mark 9 inches or 8.5. So I'm just going to cut it on the upper part here. Okay, so now the radius is out as well. So if you measure this, you will see that you have your 10 inches and you also have the excess to form your puff. So that is it for the sleeve. You go ahead and cut this for the second one as well. So before I take it out, to make it easy for me to sew, I'm going to notch it at important points. So this is the half, then you're going to fold into 4 again and place a notch there as well, on the upper part as well as the lower part. So you're going to use this one to cut out the second sleeve. I have gone ahead to cut it on my fabric. You can see this is the lining and this is the main fabric. I just added allowances on the upper part. I already have on the side. This is the back, and then for the sleeve as well, I have cut out the 2 that I need, and then I placed notches on it just like I explained. So the same notches I have placed, I'm going to place it on the main sleeve as well. I'm going to notch it in 4 places. You don't have to do this, but doing this will just make your gathering a little bit easier. It's going to guide you when you want to gather. So you can see that when I'm placing this one, I'm removing the seam allowance, because we are not going to be having gathers on that seam allowance area. So I'm just taking that part out, and then I'm going to notch. So I just folded into 4 and I've notched. So it means you have divided it into 4 portions: 1, 2, 3 and 4. So these are the 2 sleeves. So you can also do this on the upper part, but it's not so necessary. I'll just notch the center part of the armhole area. So now to sew it, all you need to do is to spread out your sleeve like this. You are going to spread out your sleeve, and then you're going to bring in the flare. So you can see the flare. You decide where it's going to be the right side and the wrong side of your fabric. You look at it well, and then what you need to do now is to go ahead and gather this. So these notches will guide you. So you can see I'm matching the notches together. This is the center notch. I'm matching it to the center. You look for the next notch, which is this. You're going to match it to this point as well, and then you pin. Then this one, you are going to also pin it. So you go to the other side and you do the same thing. You look for your next notch, you match it and pin. This way, if you have a client that does not have the discomfort that comes with using elastic, you can easily use this method. So you are going to pin this one to this as well. So you go ahead and gather it. So if you look at it now, you will see that we have excess everywhere. So there is excess here. You are going to gather this to fit into this portion. You go to your next portion, the excess here you gather. The excess here, that's the excess of the notches. The excess here you gather, the excess here you gather as well. So after gathering it now, we'll flip it. So let me go and gather first, and then bring it back to show us what we have. Here to gather it just like I explained. You can see I've gathered it to fit into the small hem of the sleeve here. So what you just need to do now is to flip it, and it will already have that puffy effect. But because what we are working with is like a crop top, is a very small cape, okay, so I want to do inseam finish, because I don't want the person to raise the hem and then the seam allowances will be showing. So I want to sew all the seam allowance inside. So for the sleeve, what I'm going to do before I sew it to the head like this, to the head of the sleeve, to the upper part, the armhole area. What I will first do is to close the under arm. So you are going to do that fabric to fabric, lining to lining, and then you use your seam allowance to sew it. Remember, this part where you gather is the hem of your sleeve, so you measure out whatever you use as your hem, and then you sew it. Mine is 1 inch. I have 1 inch seam allowance, so I'll just go ahead and sew 1 inch here all the way to the upper part here, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to sew the 1 inch seam allowance. So I will do that now and bring it back to show us what we have. I have gone ahead to sew it just like I said with my 1 inch seam allowance. You can see that I sew the lining separate and the main fabric separate. So what I'm going to do now is to just bring them together like this, so you can see. So just open your seam allowance. This is the underarm. You open the main fabric as well, and then you just pin them together like this. So once you pin it, you do the rest for the rest of the sleeve. So you can see that I'm already flipping it to the right side, so you can see what it looks like here. It's a clean finish. So here I'm going to remember that I placed the notch at the center of the sleeve. I'm going to match the notch together here and pin it. So what I'll do now is to go over to my sewing machine and then sew them together. So when I sew them together, when I'm getting to this upper part, I'll have excess, so I'll plait it. I'll do the same thing for this side. The excess that I have here as well, I'm going to plait it. Then you have your sleeve, so you can see how voluminous it is looking already. I've done that now. You can see the small gathers that we have there. So this is what it looks like. So when the person raised the arm, you can see this is what you're going to see. There'll be no seam allowance. That's why I said I want to do inseam finish. So you can see it's going to be closed on the underarm area like this. It's going to be completely closed, and the excess that we added to the sleeve, you can see that it is forming a puff effect. Can you see the puff effect that it is giving to the sleeve? So it's going to give it like a puff effect here. Can you see? So now the sleeves are ready. I'm going to go ahead and work on the main bodice. So for the main bodice, just like I did for the sleeve, I'm going to be sewing it lining to lining, main fabric to main fabric. So what you're going to do now is to go ahead and join it on the shoulder. You're going to join the shoulder, join the sides. You do that for both main fabric and lining, and then you use that to turn each other out. You can see I have gone ahead to sew it. I joined the shoulder as well as the side. So after that, I just place the lining against the main fabric. Can you see? I place the lining against the main fabric, and then I sew it on the hem, both front and back. I sew it on the hem, and then I also sew it on the zipper area so that I can turn it out. The neckline is left untouched, as well as the armhole. We are going to put a collar by the neckline. That's why it is like this. But if you are not using collar, please turn your neckline as well. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and turn everything out. So if you still close up the neckline, you will still be able to turn it out from the armhole. So once you turn it out now, you are going to take it to your ironing table, and then you iron everything flat so that it can lay well. Make sure to open your seams, and then you're going to iron it. So for the front, remember I said I want to put a trimming, so I'll just sew my trimming here before I gather it. Okay, so if you're not putting trimming, you don't need that process. So I'll go and iron now. I have ironed this, and you can see that it is laying flat now. This is what it looks like on the front, and you can see that the back is a bit longer than the front. Remember that we added extra 1 inch and then slanted it. So this is what the back looks like, and this is what it looks like on the inside. You can see that everything is turned. It's so small, so that's why I don't want to sew the seam allowance outwards. I don't want it to be showing in any way, so I just prefer to do an inseam finish like this. So this is what we have so far. So now what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and sew this trimming that I want to sew to this part. just to the front. You can also sew to both front and back if that is what you prefer, but I'm putting mine in front. So I will just sew it here like this, and then after sewing it here, I'm going to go ahead and gather this upper part. So I'll also hold the armhole with a stitch. Remember, it is sewed separately, so because it's sewn separately, is it may be a bit difficult. So I'll just hold this part with a stitch, and then also hold the neckline with a stitch. I have sewn it, you can see, and then I also held the armhole with a stitch. You can see that it is more stable now. So the next thing now is to gather the center front. So you're going to place a notch by just putting this on fold, and then notch your center front. So once you notch your center front, here you can also place this part and fold, and then mark it. I've chalked where it is on my center front. So the next thing now is like form like a plate. So before then, to make it easy, I have done like a small rope here. Okay, it's about 1 inch. You fold it and then you sew. So once you do that, you will sew it. That's what we're going to use to gather it. So you can see how I place it. This is the right side and this is the wrong side. The wrong side is the one with the seam. So you place it like this in a way that the wrong side of your rope is going to be facing your lining like this. So, and then I sew it like this so that it can make it easy for me to gather. So this is what you're going to have. This is what it looks like. So now the next thing now is to form like pleats here. Okay, you can leave like half an inch because you are still going to put collar there, so you don't want that part to be too thick. So you can just start pleating from maybe a little bit so that you'll be able to sew your collar easily. So you can see how I am just pleating like this, maintaining my center front. I'm just pleating it depending on how small you want it to be, and then when you get to this last one, you make sure that it is left like this. You don't fold this over. So this last one, you leave it the way it is like this, and you pleat very well. Make sure that your lining is not it's not looking flappy. I don't know if you understand what I mean. So this is the last one. I have placed it like this. The next one is to bring the already made rope that I have already sewn here. So this is what you can see, that this is the wrong side of your rope. So you just flip it on it like this. So the rope is going to hold it together. Then I'm going to take this to the sewing machine now and then lock it with a stitch. So let me just hold it with my pin. So once you hold it, this is what you're going to have. This is the effects that you're going to have. Can you see that? So this is the effect that this is going to give to us. So you look at it. If you like it, if you don't like it, you can still do something about it before you sew. So once you're okay with what you have, you're going to sew it. You're going to measure the neckline, cut a bishop neckline, sew it round, and then we will now sew our already made sleeve to the sleeve area. Then you go ahead and weave the sleeve. The only part that is going to be rough is this armhole area. So I'm just going to weave it and fix my zipper. The video is already so long, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sew it here, fix a collar around the neckline, then fix my sleeve and zipper. So this is the collar, just like I explained. I have sewn this part. You can see that it is being held together like this, and I've also done to cut out my collar. So I'm just going to sew in the collar to the neckline, then fix the sleeve and also sew the zipper. I've gone ahead to fix my zipper now. You can see, make sure that your zipper opens up completely so that it will be easy for the wearer to wear it. And this is what the inside looks like. You can see how clean it is on the inside. Because it is small top, it's always advisable to do your inseam finish. Can you see? The only part that was open was the armhole area, and then I had to use my weaving machine to serge it so that that part can be neat as well. Aside that, every other part, this is the side, this is the shoulder. So make sure that every other part is clean aside this part where you're turning out from. So this is what it looks like. This is what the sleeve looks like as well. The sleeve has also been turned inside. So I hope you enjoyed making this with me. I'm going to take it to the mannequin now so that we can see what it looks like. But this is how you zip it up. Okay, this is what the back look like when you zip it up, and then this is what your front is going to look like. So you just take out your threads and then give it a final iron. So this is what it looks like on the mannequin. You can see I paired it with my dress, and you can see how beautiful and simple it is to make this blouse. You don't have to pair it with this exact dress. If you have any sleeveless that you just don't want it to be sleeveless, you can just wear something like this on it. I hope you enjoy making this with me, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Bye.